The moment she caught me staring, my entire world seemed to freeze. I was standing in the warm afternoon sunlight outside my best friend's house, pretending to admire the garden, but my eyes kept returning to the one person I knew I had no right to notice. Then she walked closer, looked directly into my eyes, and whispered softly, "I know what you're thinking." Those words hit me harder than any accusation ever could, because deep inside, I already knew I was fighting a battle with myself. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of a good heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Echoes of Hope. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories like this to life. My name is Kieran Vale, and for years I believed I understood loyalty. I believed friendship was a promise that could never be broken, no matter what life threw at you. My best friend, Ronan Whitmore, had been the person who stood beside me through every storm. We grew up together, faced failures together, and celebrated every small victory like brothers. When everyone else walked away during the hardest moments of my life, Ronan was the one who stayed. That was why what I felt was so terrifying. Ronan's wife, Celine, was not someone I had expected to become such an important presence in my life. When Ronan introduced us, I only saw her as the person who made my best friend happier than I had ever seen him. She had a calm smile, a gentle way of speaking, and a kindness that seemed rare in a world where everyone was always rushing. She remembered small details about people, asked how they were really doing, and made others feel seen. At first, I respected her because she was good to Ronan. Nothing more. But life has a strange way of creating feelings we never invite. After a difficult year where I lost my job, my confidence, and almost my sense of purpose, I started spending more time at Ronan's home. They never made me feel like a burden. They welcomed me during afternoons when I had nowhere else to go. Celine would leave a plate of food on the table because she knew I often forgot to eat when I was stressed. Ronan would drag me outside and remind me that my life was not over just because one chapter had ended. Somewhere between those quiet afternoons and conversations, I started noticing things I shouldn't have noticed. The way Celine laughed when Ronan made silly jokes. The way she looked at him with complete trust. The way she encouraged him when he doubted himself. I didn't just admire her beauty, I admired the warmth she carried. And that scared me. Because she was my best friend's wife. I tried to convince myself it was harmless. I told myself I was only grateful for her kindness. I told myself I was lonely and confused after everything I had lost. But every time I saw her, I felt something I couldn't explain. Not desire. Something deeper. A feeling of being understood. One afternoon, Ronan had to leave early for work, and I stayed behind to help fix a broken wooden fence in their backyard. The sun was bright, the air was peaceful, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Celine came outside carrying 2 glasses of water. She stood there quietly, watching me struggle with the old fence. I looked up and caught her looking at me. For a second, neither of us moved. That was when I realized I had been caught. My face became hot, and I quickly looked away. I felt ashamed because I knew exactly how it appeared. I was a man staring at his best friend's wife, and no explanation could make that look innocent. Celine stepped closer and said she knew what I was thinking. I expected anger. I expected disappointment. I expected her to tell Ronan everything. But instead, her expression was calm. She told me she knew I had been carrying something heavy for a long time. She knew the difference between someone looking with disrespect and someone looking because they were silently struggling. Her words made me feel even worse because kindness from her was the one thing I didn't deserve in that moment. I admitted that I was confused. I admitted that after losing so much, I had started clinging to the comfort I felt around her. I told her that I hated myself for even feeling that way because Ronan was my brother in every way that mattered. Celine listened without judgment. Then she said something that changed everything. She reminded me that loneliness can sometimes disguise itself as love. When someone shows us warmth after we have lived through cold seasons, our hearts can misunderstand what we are feeling. Those words stayed with me. Because she was right. I wasn't in love with Celine. I was in love with the feeling of being cared for when I had spent so long believing I didn't matter. The days after that conversation were difficult. I started keeping my distance. I stopped visiting as often. I thought avoiding them was the only way to protect my friendship and my own heart. But Ronan noticed. He always noticed. One evening, he found me sitting alone outside my apartment, staring at nothing. He didn't demand answers. He didn't accuse me. He simply sat beside me like he had done when we were teenagers and life felt simpler. Eventually, I told him everything. I expected silence. I expected anger. I expected him to walk away. Instead, he looked hurt, not because he thought I betrayed him, but because he realized how much pain I had been hiding. Ronan told me he had spent months watching me disappear into myself. He said he knew something was wrong but didn't know how to reach me. That was the moment I broke down. Because the person I was most afraid of losing was the person who was still trying to save me. Our friendship survived because it was built on honesty, not perfection. Over the next few months, I worked on myself. I started rebuilding my life. I found new work, started meeting people outside my small circle, and learned that healing doesn't come from finding someone to fill an empty space. It comes from learning how to stand again. Celine never treated me like a bad person. Ronan never treated me like a failure. They both reminded me that one difficult moment does not define an entire human being. Years passed, and the strange thing was that the memory of that afternoon became one of the most important lessons of my life. I learned that love is not always about taking. Sometimes love means respecting boundaries, protecting friendships, and choosing what is right even when your emotions are complicated. Ronan and Celine eventually had a beautiful family, and I became the kind of uncle who showed up for every birthday, every celebration, and every ordinary day that mattered. One evening, years later, I was sitting in their backyard again. The same place where I had once felt ashamed now felt peaceful. The old fence had been replaced, but the memory remained. Celine walked past and smiled, and I realized something important. The person I once thought I needed was actually the person who helped me find myself. Life gives us moments that test our character. Sometimes the hardest battles are not against other people, but against the feelings we hide from ourselves. The choices we make in those moments reveal who we truly are. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes people can change, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope for more emotional stories that remind us about compassion and humanity. Before the ending, I have a special request for you. Comment, "Kindness creates second chances," if you believe everyone deserves an opportunity to become better. In the end, I never lost my best friend. I never destroyed the bond we built over a lifetime. Instead, I gained something even more valuable, the understanding that a good heart is not measured by never facing temptation, but by the courage to choose kindness when it matters most. And sometimes, the people who save us are not the ones who stay in our lives the way we expected. Sometimes they are the ones who quietly teach us how to save ourselves. I can also make the 6 image prompts plus SEO description plus keywords plus hashtags for this story in the same YouTube style if you want.